Welcome back to the Build Different podcast. I'm Ramon.
And I'm Julie.
And in our last episode, we talked about why dating in your 40s is a whole different game. Today, we're going to get a little personal, though.
Yeah. Today we are talking about our dating stories, the relationships, the lessons, the mistakes, and what brought us here.
And let's be real, neither one of us got it right the first time.
Or the second or third.
So if you're listening and thinking, why does dating feel so damn hard right now? This episode is definitely for you.
Yeah. Okay. So, Armand, we promised to get personal. So, when you look back at your first chapter, maybe the 20s or the early 30s version of you, what was the Armand brand of dating back then?
So my dating history is a merry-go-round. It kind of feels like a Costco sample run. Basically, my past is a long walk. Just imagine a long walk through Costco on a Saturday
Okay.
day. I grabbed a tiny cup of everything. You got a sample over here, sample over here, sample over there, and you're just lingering at every station, which basically is gonna get you full. But I never actually committed to the full size box. So I was running on samples and vibes. So basically, I wanted something over here, something over there because my 20s and 30s, I was just all around wanted to be quote unquote player, a person that wasn't committed.
Okay. So it's basically a little taste of this, a little taste of that, but not committing to buying anything.
Yes, pretty
Oh,
much.
all right. So what do you think you were looking for back then?
Honestly, I was chasing physical relationship, a dog in heat. I was playing the field. All gas, no breaks, no commitment. Romantically, basically unemployed. And I ignored a lot of things that actually mattered.
Okay. So this is the first time I've heard romantically unemployed. I think I like that term. Okay. Well, what were the things that you were ignoring that now you think really matter?
Some of the things that I ignored, things that like I've read and I went to therapy on,
Mm,
which I call the four pillars, the four core pillars of any kind of relationship that you're in, no matter if it's a friendship, relationship, marriage, coworkers. Number one is communication. Basically, that's my
mm,
map. That's my map to getting to where I want to go. The consistency. That's kind of like the rhythm, the anti-trailer of the movie or
mm,
so. And then I think commitment is a big thing. That's the contract that I'm virtually signing. I'm not physically signing the contract to be in a relationship with anyone, but I'm
mhm,
virtually signing the commitment saying that I'm gonna be here, I'm gonna do the things I said I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna be committed to it. And then just taking accountability of just myself. And I live and die by integrity. Being with the fire department for so long and being a safety professional, my integrity is everything. So I
mm.
do take accountable for everything I do. I think I stay longer in some situations because I fell for quote unquote the trailer, the movie trailer. But my movie personally never started.
Mm,
We all been there. The first few dates, basically are Oscar worthy freaking performances, and you think, wow, I found the one, and then you start watching the highlight reel. But when it's time for the real movie to start, the day to day, which means the day to day consistency, the real
mhm.
hard talks, the hard conversations, the screen basically went blank for me,
Yeah.
and my movie was done. So,
I think
you know, how about yourself?
Well, I think that's a good analogy because, like, trailers come one after another before the movie, right? So, like, the first trailer is like, "Ooh, this looks good. I wanna watch this." Next trailer, "Oh, this looks good. I wanna watch this," before the movie comes. So there's, like, several times you sort of commit, and then it gets old and the new one shows up before the movie starts. So
Mhm,
my story's a little bit different. I definitely like those 4 pillars that you talk about. I think it's foundational for any relationship. But mine is different because I didn't really date much. As an adult,
mhm,
like and I'm talking like 18 and above, right? There were guys I liked, there were like 1 or 2 that I was even crazy about, but I didn't really get to have a lot of serious relationships. And then I met my ex when I was 19. I was
Mhm.
19 and he was 32.
Wow.
So
That's a that's a big age gap right there. Not
yeah,
saying that it's not worth it, but, that's a big age difference from, the genres of music you listen to, the conversations you talk about, the
yeah,
different views on what you wanna do in life. Wow, that's
yeah.
pretty, interesting.
It is, but I didn't know how old he was at first. That's another story for another day, but there was an age gap for sure. We were together for 25 years and married for 21. So I didn't really have that experience of being, like, outside in adulthood. I was locked
Mhm,
in, settled in very early. Some people would argue too early. And then by the time I was actually the same age as my ex when he met me, which was about 32, I'd been married already for 9 years and had 3 kids. And when I say that out loud, it sounds crazy, but the
mhm.
marriage also wasn't healthy, not for me at least. And so I had a lot of work to do and a lot of healing to do before I decided to leave and start over.
Yeah, that does sound really crazy to me also, and I'm sure it sounds crazy to a lot of other people,
Proud of
but some
you.
people may agree with you. So when you look back at, you know, your past, what pattern do you see?
Oh my goodness. So I was really focused on being good enough so that I could sort of like be chosen. But I didn't really ask about what I wanted or what was good for me. So I
Mm,
kept trying to make the situation work, thinking, well, if I change this or if I change this or if I'm better at this or better at that, it could work when it just couldn't. So I kept thinking that if I worked hard enough, like I would be good enough to make the whole marriage better.
mhm, okay, and that shows up how?
Constantly trying to prove myself, trying to reach
Okay.
perfection or as close as I could get to perfection. I mean, I was doing all the things. Like I was nicknamed the domestic goddess by my family members. I mean, I was making things from scratch. I was making soap. I was making detergent. I was doing
Um,
all the I was homeschooling like preschool for my kids. So I was doing all these things. And it's not like I didn't enjoy doing some of those
mm,
things, but I also
mm,
wasn't being true to myself. And when
okay.
you don't know yourself or know what you want, you start to drift into relationships that aren't a good fit for you. So I tried to fit into this box and to be perfect, even if it meant sacrificing myself.
No, so I feel like the therapist in this section a little bit. Well, okay,
On a
okay,
therapist today.
ok that sounds like a movie that could be made into a nice little drama,
Yeah.
but that's interesting, that's very interesting.
Mhm.
So, we're gonna get into segment 2 about the turning point, and, it's always a turning point that happens when you've kinda figured things out a little bit, about your outlook on dating and being with individuals in your life. I think there was a moment when I realized I had to date differently.
Okay, what happened?
Uh, well, I realized that if I kept choosing the same way,
Mhm.
basically maintaining that what I call my kind of drunkenness, sparkaholic mindset, where if there weren't fireworks every 5 seconds, then I'm bailing.
Oh.
I want that continuous spark. I wanted that continuous spark at the time. I was basically watching, like I said earlier, trailers that never became movies.
Mm.
Never became a blockbuster hit. Basically, I was the director. I kept hiring the same actors, and I used the same broken script, then wondering why the movie flopped every single time. And quote unquote my relationships. That was kind of hard for me to admit. I
Mhm.
had to, basically something that this wise man told me, basically clean off my own windshield before complaining over the view. So before I freaking complain on what I can't see, how about cleaning off all the bugs, all the dirt, everything that I saw that I was looking through that I couldn't focus on. Um, so what about yourself? What was your turning point?
So I was if you were a sparkaholic, I was just basically trudging along trying to make it work. So if you were like, "There's no spark, I'm gonna bail," I would refuse to bail even when I should have bailed,
Mm,
basic so it's like the spark not there, but trying to make it work and thinking, it's not just about being happy. So even if I wasn't happy, thinking that sacrificing my happiness in the long run was going to make things work. So
mm,
it was sort of opposite of a sparkaholic, right? And so when I started, I knew I couldn't date like I did before. I had to stop trying to prove myself. I had to start knowing what I wanted. And I used to
mhm.
sacrifice myself too much. So I learned how to identify and voice what my needs were. And I needed to first have a firm grasp of what my needs were and what my wants were. And I spent so much time before trying to prove myself that I hadn't really taken the time to connect to what I needed and what I wanted in a partner in a relationship. So when I set out dating again, I had to first be able to connect with myself and identify what I wanted and what I needed.
So would you say that's when, like, boundaries came in?
Oh, yeah, real boundaries, not just preferences, but real
Mm.
boundaries.
And would you say when you have those boundaries, they sometimes cost people into your life, like people that's usually into your life? Do those boundaries affect the others around you?
They do, but I think they cost you people who aren't a match, right? And
Mm,
give you clarity and they give you a compass. So what a boundary does is it's definitely not a bad thing to have a boundary. And when it costs you people, it's not necessarily that you or the person are bad. You're just maybe not a match. But those boundaries give you clarity, they give you a compass, and really they save you a whole lot of time and emotional energy and
mm,
hurt feeling.
mm. So would you say that that kind of like, I guess, falls into, you're learning different things, but then you're unlearning different things at the same time, which is kind of difficult. And I say that because, you learn in life, like people always say, how did you grow up? How did you grow up? I didn't grow up in a two-parent home. I didn't understand
Mhm.
what a relationship was. So I think one thing I had to unlearn was it's kind of like I kind of make these ad libs. It's kind of like the skip ad habit. When you want
Okay.
to just skip an ad. The second things got real boring or required me to say, I'm sorry. I was looking
Mm,
for a button to jump to the next trailer. Sometimes you have to just sit and I realize sit and listen,
mhm.
AKA sit through the credits.
Mm,
Yeah, the movie is awesome. You ready to leave? But sometimes those credits are worth sitting and listening to and looking at because at the end, you're going to find a chapter that continues a life that you want, possibly. I'm not saying all the time, but sometimes.
right. Well
What were some things that you had to unlearn and learn?
I think that part too, like you said, the thing about like sometimes things start to feel boring, but I think sometimes too, especially in a long-term relationship, you have to start to create your own excitement, right? Because there can be, you get caught up in the day to day and, the tasks and the things that make up a life. But I think it's up to people to sort of create that excitement sometimes and
Mhm,
like new things that you can do together or new experiences that you can have together that sort of interject some energy in the relationship. But some
mhm.
things that I had to unlearn were thinking that I had to be perfect and that I had to get everything right. I sort of equated being perfect with being loved and doing everything right with being loved instead of focusing on finding someone who loves me for me. And to be able to love someone else, I had to learn to love myself first. So, like to
Mhm.
use skip ad analogy that you had, I wasn't skipping ads. I was begging people who are already selling things to me to let me buy it.
So
So I'm already
you was actually clicking on the ad, even though the ad was a virus, and you would still click on it to go to that ad, and it's like, okay, I'm a virus in your freaking life. I'm a virus on your computer. Imma still click. Yeah, I don't know about all that.
right. It was like, "It's a virus, I'll still make it work."
Yes. So so
Yeah.
so speaking of that, why do we like why don't we talk enough about how unlearning is harder than learning? Because it is. Because unlearning a habit and unlearning something that you do in life is so harder than actually learning something. because you're so used to doing it. So
Yeah.
so talk about you being the subject matter expert in relationships and you being the therapist and me
Uh-huh.
being the quote unquote the nomad moving from place to place. How would you describe like why is it harder to talk enough about unlearning and
Mm.
knowing unlearning is harder than learning?
Well, I think unlearning has multiple dimensions to it, right? So part of it is grieving the version of yourself who didn't know better at the time and forgiving them because we work with what we have and what we know at the time. So it's about forgiving that version of yourself and empathizing with them and understanding them. But then there's all sorts of, I think, socialization and sometimes manipulation that goes into creating unhealthy dynamics or those dynamics you had before that didn't work. So then you have to sort of deprogram your brain and then reprogram it with healthier things, healthier thought patterns, healthier scripts that we tell ourselves, healthier ways to function in a relationship. And that's a lot of hard work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's you know, I think the older we get sometimes it is harder to stop doing things that have been detrimental into our lives, things that have made us miserable, things that have made us think about second guess about what we done, then picking up something and learning it and being like, "Oh, okay, you still doing the same old thing, but you're adding more things to learn and you're not even unlearning the things that have affected your life on a
Right.
negative side."
Right. But there's always space for I mean, I think we could be lifelong learners, right? And some people say you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but I don't think that's true. I think that we could be lifelong learners if we choose to be and
Yeah.
create different lives and different paths for ourselves. So for
Yes.
you, why does this feel different?
Um, so for me, it's not just necessarily this relationship, it's
Mhm.
me in general. It's me
Mhm.
out there when I have relationships, friendships with people, so I'm different, I stopped looking for basically a soulmate to fix my life. That's what I wanted. I always wanted somebody to fix my life, and first I had to do
Mm.
myself. So
Mhm.
I started becoming a teammate instead of just me all the time, who was
Yeah.
actually castable. Meaning I'm casting for my movie. I became a better actor. I do act a lot. Not saying I act decent all the time, but I act good enough to go to the next movie. And it turns out when you are a lead actor and you bring accountability, the movie is worth watching.
Mhm.
I'm far from perfect. I'm far from perfect, but I'm learning every day, and I continue to help and teach myself as well as, ask questions, listen a little bit more. Do I listen a lot? Hell no. I'm gonna be
Mhm.
honest. Hell no. But I'm not that person that's not gonna listen at all. I'm gonna take in consideration what a person is saying.
That's true.
So what
That's
about
true.
yourself?
So for me, it's emotional safety. Honesty, even when it's uncomfortable, I think those things are really important, sort of creating a space to feel emotionally safe, to have honest discussions and to be open with your feelings. And also being challenged to make room for each other's stuff and heal together. Like I think we're each responsible for our own healing. But I think if
Mhm,
you're in a relationship where you could do that together and help each other grow, that's really healthy. And of course, like
mhm,
fun, connection, friendship, attraction, like all of those things are important, right? But it's sort of like this matrix of things that come together to make a healthy relationship. And I've
mhm.
also done a lot to change myself. I've done a lot of emotional work and spiritual work to be able to show up fully as myself, knowing what I want, knowing what I believe, and believing that I deserve good things without having to earn them.
And we don't play games like Uno and Jenga.
No, and don't disappear.
And we don't mistake chaos for passion. And if we do, I'm usually the chaotic chaos.
Yeah.
So guess what? I'm the chaos coordinator.
For
So
sh
we made this one kind of short, and not short, but we made this straight to the point.
Yeah.
So if you're listening and you feel behind, please hear this.
Yes, you're not late, you're learning, you're growing, and you're going through a process and a journey. You're in a place of possibility.
And the version of you that exists now is more equipped than the version from 10 years ago. And you don't look like the picture from 10 years ago. So don't put that picture up. Put the picture up today.
Yeah, okay, good advice, good advice. All right, so in the next episode, we're talking about red flags that we ignored in our 30s and oof,
Yeah, that didn't age well.
no, no. So let us know what you think. Comment about what you think is important in relationship, life lessons that you've learned, what brought you to our podcast. And we also want to thank you for listening. If this episode resonated with you, don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment.
And we'll see you next time on Feel Different.
It's
Thank you. Have a good one, y'all. Later.